The movie begins with the construction work being done on the rooftop of a high-rise building, while the structural engineer John Allen Garrity is overlooking the plans for a building, and is frustrated over things getting delayed. Moments later, we see him driving home in his car and listening to the radio about an interstellar comet named Clark, which is claimed to be the closest comet to fly by Earth in history. He soon reaches home to find his wife Allison running on a treadmill, and we learn they are having trouble lately and not living together, but are willing to put on the effort to make things work. They talk about their son Nathan and his upcoming birthday party. Nathan soon reaches home, and is excited to see John. Nathan shows him his latest drawings, in which he included Clark. It is revealed that Nathan has diabetes. Nathan asks John if he is separating from his mom, and John says he is trying to make things work, and promises him that he will always be his father. Later, the family listens to the news about the Clark comet, and learns it isn't a singular body but multiple fragments of rock and ice. The following morning, John learns from the news that a larger fragment of Clark is expected to enter Earth's atmosphere, but they don't need to worry as it won't hit the ground. While he was cleaning the grill for the party, Allison tells him that he needs to go to the store to get some groceries before the guests arrive. John arrives at the store with Nathan and notices many military jets flying above, before Nathan notices a Clark fragment in the sky. While they were shopping, John receives a presidential alert on his phone, and a call informing him that he was selected for the emergency shelter relocation with Allison and Nathan. The same alert is being shown on his home television, but Allison is unaware of it. As he was leaving, he sees many military vans passing by. He returns home to find the guests have arrived for the party. John tells Allison about the presidential alert and they are selected for emergency shelter, but Allison thinks it's just a test. Later they watch the news with the guests, where the comet enters the Earth's atmosphere and hits the Atlantic Ocean. They were surprised as there was no explosion, until they experienced the aftershock. John rushes out of the house to find the flock of birds flying away, and a massive shockwave hits him. He runs back into the home to learn from the news that the fragment of Clark has struck Florida, and a video reveals the catastrophic impact and resulting shockwave. John gets another presidential alert on his phone, followed by a call that also appears on the television. The message informs that he has been selected for emergency shelter relocation. He can't bring anyone with him except his family and instructs them to report to Robbins Air Force Base with limited luggage before John receives a QR code for identification to enter the plane. The guests see it and wonder why only John is getting the alerts, and they soon leave in a panic. John and Allison quickly start packing their stuff, and Nathan's insulin. Nathan then asks them about his grandpa, and John says they will give him a call on their way. As the family heads out, they realize none of their neighbors got the call, and one of them informs John that a giant fragment from Clark known as the Planet Killer will hit the Earth in 48 hours. As they begin to drive away, another neighbor named Deborah begs them to take her daughter, but the family is forced to leave them because John knows the girl will be denied and left alone. They continue their journey, and find the streets in chaos. They are listening to the news on the radio, saying more impacts are expected around the globe. Nathan grabs a blanket from his backpack and accidentally drops his insulin. The family gets close to the base but is stopped by a massive traffic jam, forcing them to leave their car. A large crowd was gathered, demanding that they should be allowed to board the planes. The family pushes themselves through the crowd, and John shows them the code he received and is allowed to enter the base. Later they were given wristbands for personal identification. When they can't locate the medicine in the bag, they realize Nathan accidentally dropped it in the car. John decides to get it back and heads to his car. Meanwhile, Allison discloses Nathan's illness to a soldier. They were brought to meet Major Breen, who warns Allison that persons with conditions like diabetes are not accepted on the plane. Allison begs Breen to reconsider, but she is helpless, and Allison is forced to leave with Nathan. Meanwhile, John gets the insulin from the car and returns to the base. John calls for them and asks everyone around but cannot find them. He hops on a plane after assuming Allison and Nathan have already boarded. He tried to call Allison but couldn't reach her. As the plane prepares to take off, another passenger notices John holding the medication and informs him that persons with such conditions are being turned down. John gets worried and requests to be let off the plane while a group breaks through the gates and attempts to storm into the planes. Some have firearms and shoot at the army personnel, prompting one of them to drop a fuel pump. John notices this and warns everyone to run away. The group keeps shooting as John runs away with the crowd. He manages to get away to a distance before the fuel ignites and the plane explodes. John later learns they declined Nathan because of his condition. Allison and Nathan reached the car, but she couldn't find insulin, and Nathan was in bad condition. After some time, John returns to the car and finds Allison's note informing him that she is heading to her dad's place. Allison takes Nathan to a store to get medicine for him. She checks his sugar levels and manages to find some insulin. Unfortunately, a group of armed robbers storm the place and start firing. Allison made her way to the front before a man spotted her. She begs him for Nathan's life, and he lets them go. She meets a woman named Judy and persuades her husband Ralph to give them a ride. John walks around the city, seeing more Clark fragments passing through the sky. He goes to a rooftop party, hoping to find a phone reception to call Allison. He finally reaches her, and they have a brief conversation before the call gets disconnected. Allison informs Ralph and Judy that her family was selected but refused entry because of Nathan's medical condition. Ralph then seems to plan something and pulls over to bring Allison out. She fights him, but he overpowers her and snatches her wristband before leaving her behind and taking Nathan away with them. As John comes upon a truck full of passengers on their way to Canada, the driver decides to drop him off in Lexington, Allison's hometown. He encounters a young guy named Colin, who informs him that the planes in Canada are heading to the rumored bunkers in Greenland, but the locations are classified. After learning about John's selection, another traveler named Lucas becomes enraged. He demands the bracelet from John and begins fighting him alongside his friend Micah. The battle forces the vehicle to swerve off the road, killing Colin in the process. John fights them until Lucas' hammer is slammed into his skull. He walks away, horrified. Meanwhile, a family approaches Allison and offers her a ride to Knoxville Airport, as Allison is aware that it's the place where the couple is headed with Nathan. Meanwhile, Ralph and Judy have arrived at the base, attempt to pass Nathan off as their son and show the wristbands they stole from Allison. Nathan informs the soldier they're not his parents, and the soldier takes him away while the couple is taken into custody. Allison exits the vehicle when they are stalled by traffic, rushes to the airport, and asks people around until a volunteer takes her to the medical camp holding kids. Allison goes through many tents before she can finally be reunited with Nathan. The next morning, John enters an empty neighborhood and enters a house looking for water and food. He turns on the television and sees the reports of more catastrophic impacts worldwide and news of Clark's planet killer, which is expected to hit Earth in less than 24 hours. He takes a car from that place and proceeds to Allison's father Dale's house, where he is seen playing cards with his friends and asks John about his daughter. John explains what happened and wants to put their differences aside until they find them. Meanwhile, Allison and Nathan get to the town by bus, and she calls home from a gas station. Dale takes the call, and they immediately head to pick them up. The family is back together, where Allison finally embraces John, and their issues seem to have been resolved. They returned home and watched more news about the planet killer before they showed them the classified shelters in Greenland. John realizes that Colin was right about it. He convinces Allison that they should go to Canada and give it a shot and tells her they must leave immediately. John later talks to Dale, and we learn that John cheated on Allison a few months ago when their marriage was going through a rough patch. John regrets for his mistake and says he was not expecting forgiveness. Allison overhears this and invites Dale to join them, but he prefers to stay home and accept his fate. Suddenly, a massive fragment of the comet drops close, forcing them to leave immediately. The family takes Dale's truck and leaves for Canada. During the journey, John and Ally reunite and promise to stay together. They go as far as upstate New York before hearing a radio report of molten debris expected to fall at any minute. The fireballs begin showering down on vehicles and killing people. John drives out, avoiding the fragments, and Allison gets into the backseat to cover Nathan. John then drives through the woods, barely managing to outrun them. He stops near a bridge and takes Nathan and Allison to hide beneath an underpass. He even rescues a man stuck in his burning car and brings him to safety. After everything settles, the family continues their journey and passes Canada. They listen to the radio and learn Clark's largest fragment, which is 9 miles wide, will hit Europe and destroy it before its seismic events wipe out 75% of life on Earth. John realizes they don't have much time. As they go further, they see a plane taking off. John arrives at the runway when the plane is about to take off and blocks it with his truck. The pilot confronts him and says the plane is already at full capacity. However, they manage to convince him and board the plane. The plane arrives in Greenland just as another fragment strikes the coast, sending a shockwave that fails the plane both engines. The pilots manage to glide through the air, and attempt a safe landing before hitting a glacier. The pilots are severely injured, and John is unable to help them. However, the main pilot shows John that a plane is landing nearby, indicating they are close to the bunkers. The family and the other passengers walk toward the airbase before they are picked up by a military truck, which takes them to the shelter. The passengers were led to the underground as the planet killer was moments away from the impact. Soon the comet hits the Earth, causing massive destruction, and everyone braces themselves for impact and experiences all the great times they had with their family. 9 months later, the planet is completely ruined, and other stations worldwide begin to communicate with Greenland. The radiation has begun to clear the atmosphere, allowing the survivors to step out onto a radically altered environment. The family joins the other survivors in their joy at the glimpse of a bird flying by. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and turn on notifications to watch more videos like this.